Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again. Here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing my weekly review for this week's episode of Breaking Bad. This week we got to see Season 5, Episode 13, ToHajiilee. Okay, so as always, my reviews do contain spoilers, so for anyone who has not seen this episode yet, don't let me be the one to ruin it for you. Go ahead and watch it first, and then come on back and watch the review afterwards. All right, freaking awesome episode, man. This episode was crazy. Okay, now let's start off from the beginning because there's lots to talk about. But basically, it started off slow, and as it went, it just got better and better and better. To the end of the episode, we're at like the climax of the series. We're at like Gus Fring, in that retirement home, walking out, adjusting, that type of feel. It was okay. We'll get there. All right. So, so to start the episode off, before the Breaking Bad credits and everything, we have Todd, who unfortunately, as good as he is and as close of an eye as he kept on Walt, just isn't able to recreate the crystal blue persuasion, at least not to the level that Lydia wants it to be at. So she's still, unsatisfied with the product they're creating, and then, Todd gets the call from last week's episode. A really nice out of chronological order tie-in that we all have seen Breaking Bad do so well all the way through the series. I'd like to see other series sort of be inspired by that and try some of that out of chronological order scenes, so they give us, that kind of an idea. So we get caught up on Todd's perspective of that call and how it went. Last week, seeing Walt in the car calling him Todd. Yes, I may need your uncle. So, this week we get to see the other side of it, and we get to find out that basically they don't want money, because if they have the ability to create the product, and Todd can do it, then they'll make so much money. $1 million would be like nothing compared to having that kind of value, being able to supply Lydia with it, and also since what was the other guy's name? The other drug dealer who they killed before. I forget his name. Started with a D. Yeah, I've just forgotten it at the moment for some reason. But basically, there's lots of business, and $1 million, or however much Walt could actually pay them in cash, is nothing compared to if Todd can actually get the process down so that they can just sell tons of the stuff and make, millions and millions and millions of dollars. So, that said, Walt is extremely valuable to them. They don't want anything to happen to him, including being arrested, including being shot and killed, or anything of the sort. He is their baby. They need him at least for a little while until he can go ahead and teach Todd. And then after that, okay, fine, if something happens to him, then it does. But until then, they need Walt, badly. So I really like that setup and how that all tied in at the end. All of those events leading towards their side of the story. For not only does Walt need their help, but they also need him at this time still, because Todd can't quite get it down. Okay, so that's all great stuff. We move on from there, and Hank is using some pretty good strategy here. He's taken Yule, who he knows that intellectually is not at Walt and Jesse's and his level. He's just a dumb bodyguard, so to speak, and is manipulating him using some creative tactics with the cell phone pictures, and which he used again later on. But really good use of that from his character. And then we have Yule get manipulated by him to fall off the grid, basically, which he does. Gives him some information, and then the way they're able to use that information, I didn't even think of. That was really well thought out, that they were able to. Great writing, by the way, as well. But that Hank and Jesse were able to, well, Gomez was there too. The three of them together, the trifecta, so to speak, they were able to come up with a strategy to, since they don't know where Walt actually put the money, they could track the call, right? Using, obviously, police, their devices, right? and which apparently Todd's uncle has those trackers too. To be able to track where a call's coming from, location, and that kind of stuff. And basically use a cell phone picture and kind of do the same trick that they did against Yule, well, sort of, on Walt, and they were able to outsmart Heisenberg, the great Heisenberg. So that was good. I really enjoyed all of that writing, those characters coming together. Because you got to remember, with the whole Jesse versus Walt thing, it's not just Jesse versus Walt. You have Jesse and Hank and Gomez with all their tools combined to fire powers combined defeat Heisenberg, or at least seemingly. So then we go forward, and you've got the phone call, and Walt, rushes out there, and I like when you can hear Jesse. He's talking shit to him. He's throwing in bitches in there all the time. You listen to me, bitch, and just the way he says it and everything. This is great. So then they track his phone, and also the things that he said too in that conversation. I'm sure they would have recorded that. So he kind of screwed himself right there. And not only would they don't necessarily absolutely need to have the cash too if they recorded that call. He just confessed a lot of stuff that he did, and I'm sure that right there would be enough for them to land it all on him with Jesse as a witness and everything of the sort. He would be found guilty, I pretty much guarantee it, even with Saul as his lawyer or whatever the case may be. So then, of course, we get the great stare down. They follow him out there, and they find him, and he turns himself in. Now, this scene right here, when that was all going down, was some of the most intense and just amazing stuff we've seen in all of Breaking Bad. So he turns himself in, and at that point, we're all just like, whoa, he's in handcuffs. Hank calls Marie, and then when he's telling Marie, it's kind of like, oh man, what's going to happen next? It seems like he's won. Everything's going his way. Everything's good. Oh man! And then you kind of knew it as you're watching. You're like, wait a minute, Walt did just get off the phone a few minutes ago. They're taking too long here. Todd's uncle could roll up any time because he was just on the phone with them. They could track it, right? And I'm sure he would have all those types of devices because he's in that business. They would have to have stuff like that to be able to locate people, to be able to track them down, and do them, right? So and then of course, just like Jesse, he's terrified of it too, and just like he thought, at the very last minute, the trucks roll up, and you see so many dudes with like high power, rifles and guns and just numbers, car full of guys just ready to go. They'll pull out the guns and everything. Oh man, you want to talk intense. Now right there, I was thinking, oh, Hank's getting blown away. Hank is getting blown to shit, man. I was really surprised to see in this episode that they didn't show it. They didn't show, that character death. I thought it was going to happen, man, especially because of that call with Marie. It's like the final, oh man, it just seemed like it was going to happen right then and there. Todd's uncle and the rest of them were just going to blow them to smithereens. And I guess, seemingly, Hank and Gomez have not been hit yet, and we're able to get behind the car. Even though, actually, it seems like Walt is the one who's been the closest to being shot. I mean, is it a little bit unrealistic? I think so, because you've got like 10 guys there. He's not that far away, and they're all trained killers. And I mean, they did shoot the first shot too. So to me, it would seem like with that many guys, aiming and all with different guns and trained and everything of the sort, good with them, and that's their occupation, so to speak. It kind of seems like, well, story-wise, I guess, they wouldn't want to kill him just yet because we have to see the scene play out more for the writing and everything. But realistically, I would think that they would be blown away already, Gomez and Hank. And then, of course, what's going to happen with Jesse after? Is he going to run? Is he going to get away? What's the deal? What's going to happen with him? I think he probably will. Oh, man, it's... Wow, intense. So this is like a huge cliffhanger, man. I mean, they cut the episode at like one of the most exciting times in all of Breaking Bad because you've got Walt that's in handcuffs, you've got Hank there who's in jeopardy, Gomez is in jeopardy, then you've got Jesse in the car, he's in jeopardy. Oh man, intense, just crazy good. So this was a big payoff, and all the build-up we've had. Like last week's episode was quite a bit of build-up, and before that, I mean, it was really good. But I did say last week that I felt last week's episode was a little bit slower. It's not like I gave it a bad score or anything, but people, anytime I say something negative about anything online, I mean, I guess it makes sense because people are looking things up that they're interested in. If they didn't like something, they probably wouldn't look up to see a review online, right? So most of the people that watch the reviews love the shows that I do review. But unfortunately, every once in a while, you get a slower episode or you get an episode where it feels like, maybe there's a few parts here and there that probably could have been cut. This week's episode, the whole thing with Yule, I mean, I can kind of say that could be probably cut. Like if you were going to make a movie out of this or something, you probably cut that out entirely. There's always some things that they throw in, I think, to fill up the time a little bit better, or slow it down for certain parts. And, episodes like this episode make it worthwhile and everything to watch the series all the way through. But when I'm doing reviews and stuff, I have to be honest about it, and I try to be unbiased. Even though I do love the shows that I review, I pick them to review because I enjoy them, so generally my opinion is going to be positive. But here and there's going to be episodes that I think are not the best. It does happen. Again, I gave it a good score. It's not like I let that bias affect the way I scored it or anything of the sort. I tried not to be. But nevertheless, for this week's episode, I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. There was a few little things at the beginning, like I said, that were a little bit slow, and I don't know if they're really going to really add that much to the story overall, when this is all said and done. I mean, we only have 3 episodes left, 14, 15, and 16. That's it. This was 13. So, in hindsight, when it's all said and done, what parts are we going to remember? Are we going to remember what happened with Yule? Well, maybe if it leads to something better next episode and the episode after that. But it better quick, because we only have 3 left, so that's that. So anyway, just to address some thoughts I've had on about people in the comments and stuff like that. Comment whatever you want, call me whatever you want, or whatever the case may be. But I do have to do my reviews honestly, and sometimes I'll watch something, and if I think it's not the greatest thing I've ever seen, then I have to do a review and mention that and be non-biased. I can't say, what's the point? Some people on YouTube do this, and I hate it. What's the point in doing reviews if everything you review, you say you love? What is the point of that? Every single moment of every single, then your opinion means nothing. And this even happens too with Walking Dead reviews too. Sometimes there are slower episodes that I would give worse scores. It's not like the show's been perfect all the way through. There are some things in some episodes that I really disagree with and I really think are bad. Some of the stuff in Season 2 from The Walking Dead is a good example. At the beginning of Season 2, some of those episodes are horrendous, really bad. And if it continued like that, it'd probably get canceled, all the way through. But, just to kind of address last week's review for Breaking Bad and let people know, I have to be honest. If it's your favorite show or whatever and you love every single moment of it, great. I love these shows too, but I have to be honest about my reviews. But tonight's episode was freaking awesome. And it's not necessarily just that I like episodes that have action in them necessarily. I rate episodes depending on, their character development, how much interest I have for what happens in the episode, whether or not I feel like certain events are unnecessary to occur in an episode or movie. If there are things that don't drive the story, drive the plot, and improve my interest in it, in whatever I'm reviewing, then I'm going to take points away from that. You know what I mean? That's just how it is. So anyway, just to address a few concerns for last week's episode. But this week's episode was amazing, and I can't wait to see what happens in next week's episode. Absolutely can't wait. And it's not all about action either. Some people were saying in the comments, oh, he just rates every episode that has action in it. It's not just that, but I like to see things happen. I mean, who wants to watch a show where week after week after week nothing ever happens, the character development is not very interesting, the plot is not very interesting, and it feels like you're just wasting your time? Those are the kind of shows that get canceled. Those are the kind of movies that fail at the box office, and no one wants to see. We need to see things happen. We've only got 3 episodes left. This episode did it for me. Last week's did not. I'll call it here. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you next week for the next one. This is Trev, and I'm saying peace.